This is the 5th video in a series I'm doing on what is helping me with my recovery from long COVID. In my last video, I gave a recovery update and shared what I believe long COVID actually is. Today, I'm going to talk about the importance of pacing. When I was first ill with COVID, I kept expecting that my energy and strength would return, that my symptoms would leave, and I would feel better. I would try to be up and about more, or go for a little walk, or sit in the sunshine for a while, or read a book, expecting to feel better. But more often than not, after doing any of these activities, I would end up feeling much worse. And then I began to hear about others who were experiencing the same thing. People with COVID who were experiencing their symptoms dragging on, and every time they felt a little better and attempted to return to normal life, they would have a relapse and be back in bed with all of the same symptoms. For some, this would happen over and over. So even though I was trying to be careful not to relapse, after starting to feel better for a few weeks, I ended up overdoing it and crashing very badly. I was back in bed with all of the same symptoms and severe fatigue and weakness. After several weeks with no improvements, I knew I had to do something in order to try to live my life at some level. I'm a mother of 2 teenagers, I home educate my kids, and I'm also an artist. Being recently separated, I had to try to figure out how I was going to run the house on my own, teach my kids, and continue with my art, all while trying to recover from this seemingly endless illness. And this is when I began to read about the concept of pacing. As I explained in my last video, I believe that long COVID is actually post-viral fatigue syndrome, chronic fatigue syndrome, and CFS is a nervous system dysfunction. Your body is in a state of flip-flopping between the sympathetic, fight or flight, and the parasympathetic, with extremes of both. Living in this constant state of nervous system dysfunction leaves you with extreme fatigue and a whole load of other symptoms. So while living in this state, if you overexert yourself, you end up feeling far worse and experiencing something called post-exertional malaise. Overexertion can be physical, too much physical activity, mental, thinking too much or reading too much, emotional, sensory overload, too many loud noises, bright lights, too much TV, even eating too much of the wrong kinds of food or drinking alcohol or caffeine. All of these are examples of overexertion or overstimulation, which ends up aggravating an already overtaxed nervous system and causing post-exertional malaise and a worsening of your symptoms. If your nervous system dysfunction hasn't been healed and you ever start to feel a little bit better and then just try to live your normal life again, you end up unintentionally overstimulating your nervous system and experiencing a crash which can last days, weeks, and sometimes even months. This is what is called the boom and bust cycle. Feeling better, overdoing it, crashing. Feeling better, overdoing it, crashing. It's very important to get out of this boom and bust cycle if you want to heal properly and have a full and lasting recovery. The first step in stopping this cycle is to find what is called your baseline. Your baseline is the minimum level of activity that you can do each day without having any kind of crash or relapse. This will be different for everyone, depending on where you're at in your recovery. For me, when I was at my worst, my baseline was spending most of each day in bed, but doing the minimum level of activity to look after my kids and keep the household running. So your baseline is the very minimum of daily exertion. And from your baseline, you can start practicing pacing. Pacing is learning to live in a way that means that you are able to get your daily tasks done while staying close to your baseline and not overexerting yourself and then crashing. It's learning to plan your days and your activities with lots of rest in between. For me, when I was at my worst, a day of pacing would have looked something like this. I would have set the table and got everything ready for breakfast the night before. In the morning, I would make breakfast and then go back to bed and rest. Then I would do the washing up and then go back to bed and rest. Then I might read for 10 minutes and then rest again. I would get everything ready for lunch and then go back to bed. Then I would make lunch and then rest. Then I might do some art from my bed and then lie down again. If I was making a meal for dinner that took some prep, I might cut up the vegetables in the afternoon and put them in the fridge for later and then rest. You get the picture. It's doing everything you can to conserve the little energy you have in order to be able to live your life. Things like sitting on a chair while you cook, or stopping to rest for a few moments while you walk up the stairs. I've heard of people even buying a stool for the shower so that they can sit while they shower instead of standing. It's living very intentionally with rest surrounding everything, but still very gently getting things done. And when you rest, you are really resting, giving your whole nervous system a break. You're not watching TV or reading or on your phone. You are lying down, eyes closed, recharging until the next exertion, be it physical or mental. And if you ever have a bigger activity to do, like a doctor's appointment or something like that, you plan even more resting time before and after that event. So finding your baseline and learning to practice pacing can really help you stop that boom and bust cycle and learn to live the best you can with the energy that you have while recovering from this illness. I think it's very important to always stay in the mindset of recovery, to keep at the forefront of your mind the fact that it is completely possible to fully recover and that many people have. It's important to keep this mindset, but also to take small steps towards recovery every day. So from this pace of stability in your baseline and in pacing, you begin to take very small steps to gradually increase your baseline and slowly get better. One of the most important keys for me in my recovery has been to embrace a very, very slow and gradual process. Baby steps. So with the activities that you are able to do, you can very gradually make them a little bit longer or very gradually add more activity to your day. So if you're able to read for 10 minutes a day, perhaps you could try another minute. Try to read for 11 minutes a day for a while. And if you're okay with that, try adding another minute. Or if you're able to do 5 minutes of stretching a day, try making it 6 for a few days. You're just pushing out very slowly, a little bit at a time, and slowly but surely, you're gaining strength and health and making your way towards full recovery. And then if you ever push out a little bit and the next day you feel worse, you just gently pull back a bit and rest until you feel better. And then you gently try to take another little step forward. I'm not talking about going back to the boom and bust cycle where you majorly overdo it and majorly crash. I'm talking about taking very small steps forward. And if you ever have a setback, you just listen to your body, rest, recharge, and then keep moving forward when you feel ready. So your goal is that your baseline will very slowly start to increase until you are fully recovered. This is only one part of the recovery process. There are many others that can be addressed, taking a holistic approach and healing through diet, exercise, stress reduction and management, and good mental health practices. It's important not to be afraid of taking small steps forward or of potential setbacks in doing so. If you stay in that place of fear of setbacks, it tells your nervous system that there is a threat and can perpetuate the nervous system dysfunction. What your nervous system needs is for you to remain positive, optimistic, and hopeful about recovery. You need to stay reassured that it is possible and that you are slowly making progress. Sometimes it may be 2 steps forward and 1 step back, but you are still moving forward no matter how slowly. It's really important to learn to listen to your body, let your body lead you. Never push hard, but don't be afraid to make those small pushes. And be grateful for every little bit of progress that you make. I got myself a journal at the beginning of my recovery, and every night I would write down every positive thing from that day, no matter how small, every tiny step forward. Focusing on the positives and practicing gratitude is so good for your well-being. It sends healing signals to your nervous system and is so important for recovery. So to sum things up, try to get out of the boom and bust cycle, the big pushes and the big crashes. Find your baseline, practice pacing, every activity surrounded by rest. Very slowly take small steps forward, increasing your baseline. Don't be afraid of setbacks. Stay positive and in gratitude. Doing these things will be helpful in healing your nervous system and causing all of your symptoms to resolve and heal and making full recovery. This has absolutely worked for me. Along with the other changes I have made, I have very gradually increased my baseline over many months and am now able to do far more than I could at my worst. I'm getting better all the time. I know it can help you too. Next time, I will be talking about the importance of healing your lymphatic system for recovery and the Perrin technique, which has been one of the most important keys for my recovery.